Dear ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you at our live broadcasted kick-off pitch event for our flagship program, The Mission. My name is Orsi Sauerbrei. I am Program Director at Futury. Futury is an innovation and venturing platform that connects entrepreneurial talents with market leaders to innovate together. With corporate partners and experts from the field, we provide structured innovation and incubation programs to develop new solutions and market-ready business models for a more sustainable future. We are doing this for the focus areas construction, food and waste. And therefore, we are aiming to build up ecosystems for these three topics to foster sustainability, innovation and entrepreneurship. Today, we are kicking off the Mission Construction, where leading-edge companies from Germany's construction sector are working together with highly engaged young international entrepreneurs in a 3-month incubation program. During the project, the teams are working on innovative and sustainable solutions to tackle the most pressing challenges of the construction sector. We would like to thank our initiators, Handelsblatt, PreZero, Deutsche Bank and Bain & Company. And we are very happy that we can be live here in Düsseldorf at the Handelsblatt studio. And of course, we adhere to applicable COVID regulations in the studio to protect everyone. And what can you expect today? We start with the keynote from Jan-Hendrik Goldbeck, the Managing Director of Goldbeck, and continue with a panel discussion around sustainable solutions for the construction sector. Representatives from Goldbeck, Teckentrup and Landeshauptstadt München. Afterwards, you will get to know our teams and their innovative and sustainable solutions. We close our event with an interview from Philipp Maruhn, who is the founder and CEO of ROOBEO. He's speaking of the chances and challenges for entrepreneurship in the construction sector. And now, I'm glad to welcome Mr. Goldbeck for an interesting keynote about the Mission Construction Sustainable Transformation. Hello, Mr. Goldbeck. Now it's your turn.
Well, great. Well, warm and hearty welcome from my side. It's quite a pleasure for me to be one of the persons to deliver a keynote here today and basically to kick off the Mission Construction. Thanks for the invitation, and I'm very pleased to be here and join you at least virtually, and I hope we can kick it off also in a sort of person-to-person situation, as everybody does. I think there is a person-to-person future ahead about to come again. We have 3 exciting months in front of us, and we actually have all the possibilities, all the levers in our hand to actually do something great now. Because we're living in challenging times, overall in the world, and especially also in our sector in construction. So this is why we're glad as Goldbeck to be one of the major partners of the mission, and actually we think that we can mutually contribute quite significantly. We're living in challenging times because we as a construction industry are contributing a lot in regard to positive and negative effects of society. As you know, we actually do cause an important footprint in regard to carbon emissions and also biodiversity, but not necessarily negatively. Of course, if we do construction, if we realize buildings, if we operate buildings, we have emissions and we also cause a footprint. But also to think about how this can be done the smartest way, the solution has not yet been found. Yet the levers are there and exponentially growing, and that is technology. So basically, thinking about construction is one of the most difficult, but also one of the most promising possibilities, because due to technology, we will be able to elevate, to cure some of the issues that we have today. And if we're lucky, if we find the right and smart and innovative solutions, we'll have a multiple win situation, because we are performing into a growing market, which is the market of sustainable products itself. And of course, we also deliver value to society, and we deliver also value to everybody who is engaged, to our stakeholders, especially to our employees. So this also is on the same side, it's a purpose game. So looking at this slide, which is more or less self-explaining, you have those about 10% of emissions which are caused due to construction activities. And then, of course, buildings are to be operated. So we're not only looking at construction itself, but we're looking at build world. So we actually should rephrase it, not the mission construction, but the mission build world. Because, of course, everything regarding to this product of a building should be seen holistically, should be seen also including the lifespan of a building, since we also cause emissions there and also we cause quality there. So what our customers are about to expect in the following decades, what can they expect from excellent buildings? And these are all topics that we can tackle on in this, the mission construction project that we're on this exciting, where we just began to walk this exciting path. So the building sector is crucial to achieving the climate goals. The climate goals are crucial to restore an equilibrium of sustainable nature for generations to come. And that is our mutual responsibility, not only the responsibility of the industry, but of course also the responsibility of the industry. And as I said before, due to innovative approaches, I think we might have the strongest levers within this creative, innovative, technology-driven approach. So it's about acting now. It's about creating sustainable buildings. Sustainable buildings, there are different aspects to it. And this is one thing that I will get to you in just some seconds. It's not that easy because it is really multidimensional. We have new materials in regard to timber, in regard to new natural fibers, and in regard to interpreting facades or roofs differently, including vertical gardening and biodiversity sources. Everything in regard to product technology is one very important aspect. Then, of course, the actual habits of consumers will change. We have different approaches in terms of what we understand, what is good work, what is good work in environment. Is home office the good work? Is the old school office the good work environment? Or is it something that can be called an office home, some place where we actually meet and have the possibility to be more creative, be more innovative together as a working community, which we can create within buildings. So this is one point definitely I want to make. We cannot just digitalize buildings in regard to making them vanish. As long as we don't think that we all sort of disappear into a metaverse, which will not happen in our generation at least, then we will have the need for excellent buildings. Be that schools, be that offices, be that of course homes, be that warehouses, like the whole bunch of it. So as we understand sustainability in regard to buildings, it's three pillars. One pillar definitely is ecology. And ecology is not only climate impact in regard to carbon emissions, but it's of course also the aspect of waste. It's the aspect of biodiversity and of course a couple of other aspects. But these are three very crucial points. That is one issue which is more and more important, not a sort of nice to have thing, but a permission to play thing. That's the big shift of paradigm within the last decades or within the last couple of years. But looking at sustainability, it's not only those important ecological footprint aspects, it's also social sustainability. So that is what I said about all the aspects of how you plan a town, how you plan that people move around this earth, how you actually organize the, say, all collaborative momentum within a building itself. And then, last but not least, talking about 3 pillars, never forget the economy, because it's sort of an exchangeable currency. The better, the more efficient you can build a building, the less costs you have to engage, the less waste and unproductive moments you cause, the more money you have and you can use for other things. You can use it for example, investing into carbon reducing projects all over the continent. You can do it in regard to creating social benefits, going for charity, doing something useful with it, or investing it in other useful economical advantages or ventures. So don't forget the economics, because just spending a whole lot of money, that everybody can do it with a lot of money, but this is a limited resource. So we have to take care of that and take that into account once we think about sustainability. So as an enabler, we see in construction industry or in the build world, I would say a couple of main pillars. That is, of course, the digital processes. Everything is reducing waste, but waste not only in terms of material waste, but also of time waste, emotional waste, everything that can be done efficiently. So getting the things right to the point, that's the important task in terms of smart digital processes. Also, it delivers value in terms of services. So with a new digital age, you can, say, cause a lot of more, say, customer experience within a building. And also, if you can exchange boring, tedious, heavy work with smart algorithm-based work, which is then carried out by robots, I will come to that later on, that also is a sort of allocating the energy at the right place. Then we have new technological abilities. As I just said, robots is one thing, but industrial work is one thing also currently in the discussion throughout the whole build world or throughout the whole construction world. How can you do industrialized construction? So getting rid of the very sequential, tedious, mistake-oriented world back in the old days, due to a shift where you can pre-produce in a professional environment the elements and just put them together on site. Thirdly, we have the materials. And of course, we have new building materials. It's timber, which is important. But then again, we have carbon fibers, which might replace partially, at least, for example, steel enhancement. And you have all sorts of other, say, ecologically smarter facilities to reduce the impact of, for example, concrete in that production facility. But also a bunch of different aspects which have to be analyzed, which also are expanding in its possibilities and the characteristics of the materials almost every year to another dimension. So, but they're not market ripe. So it's our task to really sort them, take the right materials and bring them to the market, put power behind it, those that we can actually harvest on in regard to sustainability. And then last but not least, of course, we go, as I said, to the life cycle approach. It's just wrong to focus only on one single time of the project. So, but the whole building itself throughout the life cycle is making the difference. So we have to look at that. It's reliability, it's services, and it's of course just driving a building in a very, say, sustainable, low energy way. Everything is interrelated in that regard. It's not just optimizing one thing. Important now is we find the right solutions. And if you look here, we have massive timber on this slide. So actually, timber is a good example for looking at the right things, because currently the cost for carbon reduction for 1 ton of carbon reduction using timber elements is many elements which you can analyze are above 500 euro per ton, 1,000, 2,000 euro per ton. So it's quite costly. We have to find smarter solutions so the whole building works in itself. I wouldn't say it's wrong, but it's sort of populist approach because it's so nice to have one material which can be the solution. But there is not only one solution, it's a complex solution that we have to strive for. And I think the mission construction is just the right platform for it. We have now an alliance of different players, different visionaries, different industry. We have Knauf here with this broad and detailed spectrum of knowing about materials and having a lot of R&D capacities in that regard. But we have, of course, the incubators, multipliers, we have Futury, we have Handelsblatt here, we have the people from the operations side included. So we have scientists which work on it, we have industry insiders being able to think a little bit outside the box. So that really gives us this possibility now in the next 3 months to have a broad view on it. And we aim to develop prototypes and really prove them. Is there something reasonable that can have a higher impact? And we're from the, say, main partner side, definitely up to really cherishing and pushing that impact once we see it's possible. So the best thing is we create something that really works in the market, be that a process, be that a product, be that an idea. And that would be like the final and perfect goal if we mutually find stuff together in that regard. So we will have so many different fields that you're working now, and I'm already quite curious, and I'm really glad that Goldbeck is able to accompany you all, and of course all the interesting partners involved in this venture to create something new. So we, from our side, have included in our business model the whole situation from the first thought of design, from the architecture throughout all the processes needed to constitute a building, to plan, to design a building. Then we have production facilities, we have the assembly, we have the know-how, what is happening on those very archaic construction sites, but we also do have the know-how of operations in regard to facility management or car parking operations, in regard to property management. So we are more than willing to throw in all those skill sets, all those expertise to contribute to our mutual venture. And of course, also we consider ourselves to be quite diverse, not only looking from a purely German perspective, but from a pan-European perspective with about 90 different locations, with 90 different approaches and different cultural backgrounds. I think having this more diverse, this broader radar screen really helps a lot in that regard. Finally, of course, I said that a couple of times, it's not about the construction process itself, but it's about the whole life cycle. For us, it means we have to create a product service ecosystem. We're not the first company, and I don't think necessarily you have to be one company. You can also be like a sort of team of different companies to think in product service ecocycles. But this is really something that is shifting the industry. It has been shifted through this fruit company with this iconic icon. It has shifted through this moonshot satellite car electric vehicle person. So we as a construction industry still have to form our circular approach and have to find our circular solutions, and we're more than happy to join forces with all of you together. Good thing is currently, as I said in the beginning, we have all the tools in our hand. It's due to technology, we have in all sorts of, say, periods of the value chain, of the phases of the value chain, we have new technologies. I will not go into detail on this slide in all sorts of possibilities, because you will, definitely in the next 3 months. But every single phase offers, through digitization, through robots, through new materials, new processes, through drones, and everything which is about to come in itself, plentiful ways to think our future differently than we did in our past. And I think this is as our goal. This is the goal in the mission, to create something which has not been there beforehand, but we will enable it to be there, and it will contribute to a good business model and to a good societal, good environmental impact. And I think that's a pretty broad approach, but that's the sign of the times that we have to accept and that we have to read. Perhaps one last view on the company Goldbeck itself. We have basically set up our level of aspiration pretty high in that regard, because we said, okay, 2023, we want to be net carbon neutral, at least at a corporate level. So at scope 2, and the next thing of course is to tackle a realistic time frame for scope 3, but we also have there in that regard a lot of good ideas. And please do not forget, there is always something that I like to call scope X, so something that you are doing as an individual or as a company with the money that you have earned. So this is also something quite important in your contribution to societal impact and to the future and to the generations which are about to come. So in the end, for us, it means we're in all levels of sustainability active, because it's just far more than just solely looking at reducing footprint. It's about finding new ideas on biodiversity. It's about helping your clients to understand what they can do. But it's also about the public level, about causing public awareness. And I think if you're all together in these different aspects and we just funnel our activities in all sorts of different specters of what would mean sustainability, and I think the best impact can be reached. So, and that leads me back to you about your scope, what you can achieve within the next couple of weeks. And as I said, possibilities are bountiful, and I'm very, very much looking forward to discuss with you on your results, on your ideas, and about solutions that will be found within those next 3 months. So I'm all wishing you joy in your collaboration, inspiring conversations, courage also for trial and error, just pivoting, thinking things new if you just went into a dead end. And of course, enough power to do that. It will be, of course, challenging 3 months, and in the end, success. Now I will give the floor back to the studio, and I'm looking more than forward for the panel discussion and what is about to come. And so perhaps we have the possibility that we will meet in person at the end. That would be a mutual goal. And so best of luck to you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Jan-Hendrik Goldbeck, for this really interesting keynote about sustainability challenges in the construction sector, as well as Goldbeck's transformation journey. Bearing your insights and impulses in mind, we would now like to take a closer look into sustainable solutions for the construction sector along the entire value chain. And we are really very happy to welcome your colleague Fabian Lenz, as well as Teckentrup and Alexander Lang on stage for a panel discussion. Fabian Lenz is Head of Innovation and Product Development at Goldbeck. Teckentrup is the CEO of Teckentrup, and Alexander Lang is Head of Climate Neutral City and Smart City of Urban Development at Landeshauptstadt München. Welcome everyone, and thank you for taking time for us. Hello.
Hi. Hi everyone.
Cool. Following up on your CEO's keynote, Fabian Lenz, which is, in your personal and professional opinion, the most pressing sustainability challenge in the construction sector?
Oh, the most pressing one there, because there are so many. I think to summarize our biggest challenge, it is to manage the overall complexity when it comes to sustainability for a whole building. You know, there are so many different options where you can improve sustainability. You have all the different building materials, several building components, you have all technical building equipment, you have energy production and consumption and other factors which are non-carbon related, for example, like land sealing or biodiversity. And like Jan-Hendrik Goldbeck already said, to make it as honest as possible, the benchmark must always be the full building life cycle from cradle to cradle. To only take the carbon footprint at the time when the building is being commissioned is just not right. It's not honest. So you need to take a look into all processes from raw material production to deconstruction, reusage, and recycling as well. And this is already super complex, and you have so many different options to choose from to make a building more sustainable. But in the end, you cannot forget, you must not forget that your building also needs to still be economically competitive so that it stays in demand on the market. A product can be super sustainable, but it will be absolutely useless if you do not sell it even once. So with all the different possibilities on the table, you need to find the options where you have the highest sustainability impact compared to the additional money you have to spend. And this is the only way you create the highest sustainability value. With all the different options.
Agreed. Kai Teckentrup, what sustainability requirements do you perceive in the market?
Well, to be a bit provocative, if you ask our customers, none. Or, well, joking aside, looking at the issue from a more analytic point of view, at the moment, our customers do understand that sustainability will be an important part in the future, but they don't perceive a demand in the market at the moment. For example, we produce doors with high insulation values that would save energy costs, or equip doors with sensors, but those are not demanded in the market. In other words, price eats sustainability at the moment. If you take a different perspective on the question, we at Teckentrup use a lot of agile methods to validate new ideas with our customers, ideas that are away from what is in the market today, very much like when Apple introduced their first iPhone. We then prioritize those demands for our future projects, and taking that perspective, the highest priority of our customers is to make what they do today better and easier. But you might ask yourself, why does that have anything to do with sustainability? It's a known fact, and Jan-Hendrik has shown that in his presentation too, that a lot of waste is produced by making mistakes in the whole process. And that is due to that complex connection of architects, planners, specifiers, installers, producers, and everybody not talking digitally to each other and creating errors. That's why we concentrate as a first step on the digitalization of the customer journey in order to reduce that cost. And within our company, we can value that worth in millions of euros already. And we're not as big as the other companies here, so it's quite important for us. Secondly, if you look at the decarbonization of our economies, the next step, of course, for us will be to look at the products ourselves. I mean, products that we produce, steel doors, consist of materials like steel, mineral wool, gypsum. They're all products that are not sustainable. So we have to look into looking at alternatives. Why is this only a second? Because it takes a long time to get those products into the market and to get them ready for Goldbeck to build into buildings, for example, because we have to test those products according to norms, and we expect roughly 5 years at least to take a product into the market.
Thanks. Alexander Lang, coming from the public sector, you're probably closest to the so-called end consumers. What is your take on the sustainable transformation of the construction sector?
Oh, thank you. As we understand, as I'm a planner in this topic, we understand the public sector as a field of public service, and more today as a digital public service, which meant we are on a change. We know this about a lot of cooperation with other cities in Europe. That is the main challenge on transformation. But sustainability is in a long term for us since 1998 a process. So it's a long way to come to the goals. As we say, our achievement is to be a city in balance. If I could explain in a concrete example, the subsidized housing is one of my topics I have also to address. So you need a limited rental, which is necessary in a city, which very high rent in Munich, as well a high quality in barrier-free homes, in ecological high standards. We have our new standards in Munich, which are very near way to climate neutral houses. And you have a limited funding as well from the federal state. So you have in a cross between the achievements you have to become in ecological aspects We want to be a climate neutral city in 2035. And as in these things, the way towards a city in balance is very long. You must realize that not more than 1 to 2% of the buildings in the city were changed, rebuilt, refurbished, new built in 1 year. So after 12 months, you have still 98% of you have in beginning of the year. So there's a very, very long change to become sustainable. And on the other side, the transformation is to be, as all the other ones said, to be much more faster. So our goal is we need not 1 to 2% of change of the buildings in the cities. We have to go up to a rate of 4% each year. And if everyone who is working on the field of construction knows what a big amount of houses is meant in the city of Munich if you change 4% of all buildings in a year. So this is a big transformation. We have to change our planning processes, as well as have to change the process in our companies. The city of Munich owns by their companies about 60,000 apartments in Munich. So it's a goal for ourselves in changing a lot of these things and becoming more sustainable.
Thank you to all of you for your interesting first insights. During our program's preparation, when we talk to our corporate partners and industry experts, as well as to our talents during the application process, we noticed a clear consensus regarding sustainability. A consensus that I also witnessed here on stage. We need sustainable transformation now to protect our ecological, social, and economic environment. But we lack innovative solutions to turn our intention into impact. Teckentrup, what is so special and at the same time so challenging about sustainability in the construction sector?
Well, like I mentioned before, one of the main points is price eats sustainability. So if, as a producer, I can sell products which are sustainable because they're more expensive, that is difficult. If the state capital Munich doesn't publicly tender for environmental buildings, for example, there's no regulation need to build those, also to sell those products. The second point is regulations take so long to develop, or development of products takes so long. That is another issue. I can't just develop a new product today and tomorrow it will be available. It takes years to do that. The third thing is the complexity of the whole process. And something we see everywhere is that each player in the market develops insular solutions which do not work together. And that is in general a lack of digitalization, but also of the way we work together. If you, for example, know that 2% of the German architects only work with BIM systems to plan a building, and it's only the bigger buildings, not the majority of the buildings which are being built, and parts of our customers only using what we offer to minimize waste, for example, it's a good sign to see that digitalization hasn't really appeared in the building process. And that's because of that complex chain which we see. And another point, of course, is also that producers don't work together. In a lot of times it makes sense to form collaborations because maybe it does not pay off for yourself when you invent a new product or use new types. It's something you have to do together. To collaborate with others is important. The most important bit of all, I think, is to include the customer into the process, because he in the end decides what product he buys. For him, it's difficult to understand what product is sustainable and what isn't. If you go to Goldbeck and order a building, you're not discussing about the sustainability aspects of every part of the building. So how do you make this easier for the customer to understand what is sustainable and also what does he want to afford?
The entire industry agrees that it must become more sustainable. And a few steps already have been taken into the right direction. Fabian, Lenz, how has the construction sector changed already? What were the major developments during the last 10 years?
Oh yeah, last 10 years is a long time span. I think that the industry has started to question itself more and more and has developed a strong urge to improve, especially when it comes to productivity, looking at the last 10 years. I think this self-reflection has launched many promising topics like industrialization, prefabrication, also moving away from batch size 1 buildings. And of course, it launched digitization based on BIM, Building Information Modeling. And all these topics are still ongoing. Like Teckentrup just said, only 2% of the architects in Germany use BIM, even though it's absolutely logical to use it, to collaborate better, to have stronger processes over the whole building value chain. And so all these topics are still ongoing, and they will continue to accompany us for years to come. But I think the start in the recent years has already been promising and gives the industry at least a very good platform to launch new development and ideas, and also launch new developments around sustainability.
Compared to other sectors, respectively services in your portfolio, Alexander Lenz, how far or far behind is the construction industry regarding sustainability in your view?
Oh, okay. Hard question, because I do not want to address special companies, but as we realize, a lot of aspects of sustainability are far from the construction sector. As what said about BIM, and we ourselves are now made an implementation about digital processes, which need solutions like BIM and others. And it's not very easy also for the public sector to install all those solutions. But on the other side, we need partners which use also those solutions. So it's a collaborative access we need to come together between planning, consumers, and the companies which produce those houses or make refurbishment. But what we need is innovations in the construction materials, which was also mentioned in the first improvement, which about wood, timber in construction. As we talk about is what do we do with other new materials? How do we decide, is this good for our carbon footprint as a city? As we are thinking about those all value chains, we have to assign not only at the borders of the city, because outside, which is coming in our system of the city of Munich, we need circular economy approaches. A lot of the materials used in the last 100 years have to be reused if we want to have an acceptable carbon footprint, beginning by steel and all the other stuff we have in our buildings. So on the other way, as mentioned, was the part of consumers. The consumers are very, very different in their aspects, what they need and what they want to, by social groups, by income. There are different sustainability goals for those different groups, which are more on the social, more on the economic, more on the ecological path. So in the city of Munich, as we do as a department, we have to address those different kind of groups, integrate them in the process, and which is a very complicated political process to become more sustainable. And on the construction side, we have a lot to do. It's in respect to all those partners here in the round, it's a very, very old industry in the average, and not the approach is to become like the modern industries. Automotive is in cases of automation, digitalization, on all those aspects far in front, and this is the challenge to achieve in construction.
Working in circular economy in Switzerland before, I just can agree with you. In the last 5 years, the number of startups in the construction sector has increased by the factor of 7. Especially software and new material solutions are booming. Fabian, Lenz, from where can we expect major, hopefully positive change?
Yeah, I'm very, very happy that startups increasingly embrace the construction industry in the recent years. I think we have seen lots of good solutions starting to develop around real estate management and the PropTech scene. I think it was like 5 to 7 years ago. And luckily, this also fueled a shift of focus onto construction technology over the last, I think, 3 to 5 years. And within that, I particularly like the fact that startups also dare to tackle the really difficult topic of material science. Like you've just said, we have also seen lots of young entrepreneurs going for software solutions and digital platform concepts and thus wanting to become the next digital unicorn. And don't get me wrong, this is also very, very good. I like that as well. However, in the construction sector, sustainability depends very much on physical materials and goods, which cannot be programmed away through digitization, like concrete, steel, wood, insulation. A building cannot function without building materials, and you have to get off your desk, off your computer to optimize the sustainability for building materials. And from my point of view, this is much more difficult, but the result can be much more rewarding, especially for sustainability. And I'm very, very pleased that more and more young entrepreneurs lead the charge in developing new material solutions.
Cool. In terms of timing, we have to speed up a little bit. So I would like to ask you just to minimize the questions really to the key points. But now, Kai Teckentrup, how does the political framework and namely regulations influence both established companies and startups in the construction sector?
Well, thank you, giving me a complicated product in 1 minute to answer.
You have to have a challenge, right?
Yeah, right. So back things very short and easy, maybe. In the European building sector, there's one regulation called European Construct Product Regulation, very difficult. And that defines all the requirements of products in the building sector and the market. It was done by 26 member states of the European Union, and the negotiations took longer than 20 years. So if you know that, you can imagine, that it is very difficult to change those norms, and B, they're outdated. They don't embody sustainability because they're 20 years old. You can change them, of course. To give you a practical example, we produce exterior doors in buildings, and those need to, according to the norms, be equipped as a complete set, which is very unpractical because in real life, the accessories get put on the door on site, which for practical reasons, you get damages, they're expensive, and all these things. So what do? We have to deliver them completely, but the customer wants to add something later on. So we deliver a minimum part of the door, which means in practicality, people throw away things that we equip and that we have to equip according to the norms. So the regulations stop us sometimes from being sustainable, and they can't be easily changed. And this is just the European regulation on products. If you look on the buildings, that is decided nationally, which means every country in Europe decides their own requirements for building. In Germany, every state can set their own requirements. So this jungle of regulations leads us also to a lack of standardization. We cannot build one product which is good for all markets because we have to always understand the local needs, which leads to smaller productions, more waste, and all these problems that occur out of non-standardization. That was very quick, I hope.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And maybe the new government is listening to our live event and has an ear for us. Alexander Lang, what role does innovation play in the sustainable transformation in your view?
In our view, we have some very expressive challenges we are facing as a city. We have demographic changes, which meant some less employees in the construction sector, which meant how many buildings could be refurbished, new build. We have more complexity, as shown in the last sentences, Mr. Teckentrup, which means more knowledge on every side of the process, from the planners, architects, as well industry and the consumers, which is not in every field enough. More standards, as we see. If you want to challenge, we need standards as well in refurbishment as well as in new buildings, and standards which are common for a lot of cities, a lot of areas. Automation, as I said, we need more processes which go to more standardized and automatic produced parts, because of the cost efficiency question. At the same time, we use reuse of materials. It's always the same topics. If you come from industry or planners, the topics are the same. We have to address, and in all these fields, we need a much more innovation. We do in some projects, and we're also facing those regulations on the federal level as well as on the national and the European level, which do not accept to use some of the materials in a new house, or only in a very small part of the. So what we also see is innovation in also digitalization. As a planner, we reduced 80% of our time using digital energy use plans besides traditional ways. So we can enforce more those planning aspects, because we do not lose time by collecting data and other stuff. So innovation is needed also on the software part, BIM was addressed, and as well as on the material side.
Interesting, thank you. With the construction sector, we are targeting one of the biggest, most complex sectors of our economy, and working alone in a silo will not be enough to create a real sustainable impact. On the contrary, we must engage in cross-value chain, cross-hierarchy, and even cross-sector collaborations. Fabian, Lenz, how do you work together within and outside the construction industry?
Okay, yeah. Sustainable solutions, like my two panel colleagues already mentioned, must be developed through the entire value and supply chain. Take us, for example, in the end, we are a building material OEM. We receive building materials from our suppliers and build components and buildings based on them. And we are dependent on what they can deliver, and they need to make sure we can also really use what they develop. So co-development and co-creation is very important. Also, asking your customer and implementing your customer within the development process. And so I think we need to launch like cross-company development networks with big companies, startups, and our clients working side by side. The challenge we have to face is so great that it cannot be solved by one company alone, and we need to be more courageous together. But I think looking at this program, the Mission Construction, I think we are on a pretty good way, and I see strong partners heading the right direction together.
Cool. Alexander Lang, being rather downstream in the value chain, are you dependent on other players to change, or can you drive change independently?
No, nobody can go independent, as well as city couldn't. We have a lot of collaboration with other cities because we change our knowledge. We have a lot of collaboration with companies, mainly in my profession with the housing companies, of their needs and possibilities. I couldn't plan anything without knowing about their possibilities, about their needs and the consumers they have. as well. On the other side, as I said, we want to be climate neutral in 2035. So we have a very small time slot for innovative solution. So we also tried co-creative processes, and I think this mission we are talking today about is one possibility to collaborate, to find new solutions, to see what startups are looking forward with their new ideas. We could integrate in our processes. So it's a collaboration about cities, about consumers, and so also with the industry. I couldn't plan anything if I do not know what they will be producing in the next 3 to 5 years and what there are challenges in the next years to go integrated in our processes. So collaboration is very needed, and we do not go independent.
So in a nutshell, collaboration and communication is key.
Yes.
Teckentrup, what is your take on collaborations along the value chain and across sectors?
Like my predecessor said, we see two things, and I feel the same thing whatever you say. One is we want to make a quick impact, and the other one is we need to collaborate. So if you take that quick impact thing, the first bit is always what we do is what can we do ourselves, which is completely in our range of actions, and that's already partnerships with institutes. Like whenever we design new buildings, we talk to universities, to the Fraunhofer Institute, for example, to create new energy reduction ideas, for example. The second bit is what can we do to make the whole process easy. Again, that's already a cooperation, because if you look at the digitalization of the customer journey, that's already integrating different players. And the third bit is whenever we look for different materials, that of course becomes more and more collaborative, because I don't have the expertise as a steel producer to know everything in the world about new products, new tests, and so on. So that dooms me to collaborate anyway. Our biggest problem, however, in that whole process is finding partners that are not just willing to, but have the capacity to do it. And by capacity, I don't mean have the resources to do it, but have the mindset to do it. For us, we discover agile methods are as one of the key factors to really get quickly to a point of view which is interesting for the customer. And we see a lot of collaborations, or we failed with a lot of collaborations, where we have partners that don't ideate, that don't iterate, that don't prototype, and that takes us to very long development periods and failures in projects. So that's very important from my point of view to make those projects a success.
Thank you for your detailed answers. Indeed, collaboration is one of the crucial factors for successful transformation. And with the mission, we designed a program that maximizes multi-leveled collaborations to bring forth innovative solutions. Teckentrup, your company's ambition is to always find the best solution in terms of design, safety, and service. Where do your ideas and skills come from?
Well, 5 years ago, we developed products like a lot of old companies after the motto, I think this is good for you. And then we implemented it in the market, and most of the times we were wrong, sometimes we were right. We changed that process, introducing agile methods within the whole company. And we started with the places the customer felt first. That is product management, defining the demand of the customer, of course. And then we implemented design thinking, Scrum, and other agile methods to do that. And the second part was all the digital touch points we have with the customers today, because that's the biggest impact quickly. We then bit by bit introduced those methods in other parts of the company. So in contrast to other companies in the market, we have an approach to change the whole company. It's not just a startup we buy, or we have on a playground somewhere and then try to integrate those ideas. We're trying to change the whole company. And that makes us really an exception in the construction business so far. And if you look back to answer your question, where do our ideas come from now? It is, of course, mainly from our customers themselves with those methods that we implement. It's coming from all over the company now, not just R&D, and it comes from collaborations with other companies.
Interesting. It is significant that collaboration comes up whenever we talk about the sustainable transformation, not only for the construction sector, but for all our programs. Fabian, Lenz, what do you expect from other companies, collaborators and competitors to do regarding sustainability?
Yeah, okay. I think we have heard lots of statements today about collaboration between suppliers and companies, between companies and their customers, and even between competitors. And I could add up on that and say, I'd like to share more know-how and I'd like to do co-collaboration and so on and so on. Because we've heard a lot of this, I would quickly like to rephrase the question and tell you some of my expectations for the politics.
Sure.
Because with all our motivation to develop good solutions, we also need a clear rule set for getting quick wins, but also for having the ability to plan on a long-term view. For example, if you take the sudden stop of the BEG funding, which just came from one day to another, or another example that it's much more difficult to use recycled concrete in Germany than it is in other European countries. We need the rule set from the politics that we can also make long-term decisions regarding on what we're developing, how we're collaborating, and how we are moving forward. And I would like to see from our new politicians a much more and clear rule set on which we can take as a way to work around.
Thank you. And now the last question. And what values are you, Alexander Lang, looking for in a collaboration partner? What should our 6.6 team prepare for?
Okay. As I heard first of this question, I would think collaboration needs a protected structure. And what I mean is you need a regulation about the results of an innovation process, for example, or a long-term cooperation, because you have to trust in each other. You need common goals between the partners of the collaboration to look forward to a certain solution. You need opportunities of implementation of those solutions. I focus out of the vision of a city on this process. We had innovation contest in Munich, which offers to startups the chance to implement their solutions on our field, to test it. It's a part of this collaboration process, and at least we can ignore that a fair participation of the economic success is a part of good collaboration. I think it's very necessary that the chances to collaborate are better if you have a clear view on what will happen with the economic success. And if you have decided about this and have a clear regulation on this, it's a very good base for collaboration.
Thank you. And speaking of our program, we would like to now give our teams the opportunity to present their solution to push sustainability in the construction sector. Thank you again, Fabian Lenz, Kai Teckentrup and Alexander Lang, for your time, and we are looking forward to working with you. And now I'm handing over to Laura. She will be your host for the next part of our event. I would like to thank you already for your attention. All the best from my side. Laura?
Thank you, Oshi. Very insightful panel so far, and a keynote speech very inspiring. Now I'm happy to announce that we are heading over to the highlight of today's event, our team pitches. My name is Laura Gevorkian, and I'm going to be guiding you through this part. We have not one, not two, but 6 pitches today, and we have representatives of each team here with us today. I'm going to invite them on stage one by one and give them about 7 minutes to present their idea and vision. So buckle up. We are starting with team number 1, Natstruct, consisting of Tony and Martina. Tony is here with us today. I'm handing over the clicker to you, Tony.
Thank you very much.
Whenever you're ready. Good luck.
Okay, thank you for the announcement. My name is Tony Frankenstein, and I will be presenting Natstruct, the combination of nature and structure. So we are talking materials right now. The construction industry basically has one fundamental problem, or rather 2. So a third of the entire greenhouse gas emissions are produced by construction. Same goes for about more than half of all the waste produced in Germany. The problem, or let's say the worst part of this, is probably insulation. Insulation is a special waste product, meaning you cannot just throw it away. It has to be disposed in a specific kind of way. What many people don't know is insulation material come with a big CO2 backpack. So you have, with the production and the sourcing, high amounts of CO2 in the production. Both of these are the lead causes, which I mentioned already in construction. So the third problem that you basically have is with the So the third problem is basically the reputation of companies that will use these kinds of products in the future. So the solution would be natural materials. You do not have high amounts of CO2. You have actually the chance of capturing the carbon. And also, it is a biodegradable material. So you can always recycle or biodegrade these kind of materials. And the big plus for consumers or selling these kinds of products is the reputation, because customers will more and more demand these kinds of products. Our goal is basically to put as much sustainability from natural products in structure. Therefore, hence, nature in structure, Natstruct. We at Natstruct can do one better, because we are not using big fields to produce little insulation. We actually identified waste products that can be used to produce composite structures or insulation structures. In our case specifically, we're talking about composite structures. This is what we focus on. Composites are basically materials that consist of or is a structure or an insulation material that consists out of different materials. For example, in insulation, you want to have it fire resistant, so you would add a fire resistant layer, and you want to have the insulation properties that you put in the core. So there you get a composite structure which is ideal for the case of insulation in buildings, where fire safety and fire hazards are a major issue. The other thing, when we focus right now on natural materials, is basically the sourcing of these kinds of materials. The competitors are shipping the materials from all over the world. We identified a regional product that can be sourced from Germany itself. So this results in a 15x, this is 15-fold, not 15%, of CO2 reduction with our natural materials compared to the other natural materials. We put this here on the slide. You can see the costs are roughly similar, with the natural insulation a little bit higher than the regular artificial ones. With the Natstruct solution, you will subtract this and come out with an overall cheaper insulation product than is currently available. This will give some some motivation to go and buy natural insulation products rather than the artificial variant. So what we did so far, we identified waste material that can be used for insulation material. We specifically made sure that we can source it from regional sources in Germany. And what we now plan to do with the Futury program and the partners from industry that are collaborating with us to create ideal materials which suits the customers in the end. Because this is the most important part, that you actually find a very good fit of the materials in the solutions, as people before me discussed already. And these materials would be taken to the market to enter the market. Our team consists of 2 people. So we have on the right-hand side Martina Grimberg. She is a construction engineer with 9 years of experience in the sector, specified or focusing on fire safety. And she has also a record as a managing director, degrees in construction, and also a pending degree in finance. On the left-hand side, you will find myself with knowledge in production of these kinds of materials, of composite materials, and also with experience as a managing director and a PhD pending in material science. So now it is up to you. You can contact us, join us, support us. Here you will find the address where you can write to us at info@natstruct.de. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony.
There you
Pitch
go.
in the first is an ungrateful job, but you managed it really well. Best of luck, and I cannot wait to see your prototype. And
Thank you.
we are moving on. So now it's time for our next pitch. And we have Team Enervate, consisting of Christian and Jona. Jona is here with us today. I'm inviting him on stage. There he is already. Jona, the stage is yours. No further ado, good luck.
Thank you. Hi, we are Enervate. Enervate stands for Engineering and Innovation. And that's what we do. We provide technologies for innovative renovation. And with every project we do with our technology, we can have an impact. We can have an impact on the climate, because 36% of the greenhouse gas emissions comes from the building sector in the EU. Buildings that are renovated with our technology have the opportunity to be climate neutral. And also, they have the opportunity to store energy. Second, ecological. Only 1% of the waste from the construction sector is recycled. We only use environmentally friendly material that can be used for cradle-to-cradle solutions. That even after 50 years, we have the opportunity to give them back into the circle. Also, we focus on the social part. With our renovation technique, people who live and work in the buildings don't have to move out. But let's dive deeper into the renovation. The problem is that renovation is not a scalable product. With the current renovation rate, it would take 500 years to decarbonize the building sector. But we have around 25 years. So what is the problem here? It's too slow. It takes up 24 months for the planning and implementation for energy renovation, for example, a multifamily house. Also, only 17% of the construction projects are digital. And also, we have seen that over the last decades, the productivity of labor on the construction site has decreased. We did our research and we found out that the problem is the traditional implementation. So what does energy renovation mean? We need 2 things. First, we have to decrease the amount of energy needed. We can see here on the left-hand side that this is done with insulation. And then the second step is that we need a new heating system on the base of renewable energy. And this is what we can see on the right-hand side. Let's focus on the right-hand side. We see here some problems. The first one is that the people who live in the building or they work in their office spaces, they have to move out for the energy renovation. The second problem is that you have a lot of dust and dirt on the construction site. And the third problem we can see here in these pictures, we need a lot of manpower. We need a lot of different companies. And to manage this, coordinate them, this takes time and money. So we came up with a solution. Our solution is a modular renovation concept with an integrated heating system. Let's see on the left-hand side here, we have the outside of the wall. And the first step of the renovation is to put pipes or a heating module on the outside of the wall. You can think of a floor heating system you just put on the outside and not on the inside. And then we have the wood structure and the insulation combined. Therefore, we have a renovation concept which is modular and can be added with different things. For example, the pipes, insulation, windows, or even ventilation, as we can see here on the left-hand side as well. But there are also other options, for example, photovoltaic. This is an existing modular concept that we can use today. And the best part about it is we don't have to put one step inside the building for energetic renovation. So what do we have to do now to scale this? We need to use software. And this is what we're doing. We developed a software for our renovation concept. In the first step, we analyze and scan the building. With this information, we can create and generate a digital twin. With this digital twin, we can apply it to our software to automatically plan and module the renovation concept for one specific building. And at the end, we have a report with a list of services, a cost estimate, and a 3D visualization. What do we have to do now? We just have to bring all stakeholders on one community platform. And this is what we provide as well. The communication platform for the stakeholders. We can see here on the left-hand side, the user interface for the building owners. They have the overview of the 3D model. They have the overview about the new energy class, about amortization rates, investment, potential fundings, or the CO2 balance. On the right-hand side, we can see the interface for the construction companies or the material suppliers with a detailed plan which is automatically generated through our software. We have the timetable, we have the list of services and other options to add. We know this is a huge opportunity and a big challenge, but we have a complement team with a big vision. This is one Christian who is responsible for the technology, who has several years of software experience in software development and prototyping, and that's me, who comes from business background with several years of experience in business development in engineering companies and startups. And together we provide the technologies to speed up renovation and make them more cost efficient so that we can provide an impact to decarbonize the building sector.
Very good. Thank you, Jona. Business and software, that's the way to go. Congratulations and best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have another team with a sustainable goal. We have Team Green Signal with Gregory, Dapla, and Joshua. Gregory is here with us today. Off you go. Best of luck.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me here. My name is Gregory Roosman. I'm a co-founder at Green Signal, and today I would like to talk to you about the future and how you can prepare yourself today to make the most of it. So, by 2030, sustainability reporting will have become so standardized that your companies will rely on it in the same way that today companies rely on financial reporting and accounting. Why is reporting important? Because reporting allows you to identify risks and opportunities. And the construction sector is going through waves of disruption that it hasn't seen in decades. And this presents both risks and opportunities. For those of you who are willing to move and seize the moment, there has never been a better time. But standing still and doing nothing is not an option. So what waves are we talking about? The first wave is climate action, the second is circular economy, and the third is green finance. Climate action for the construction sector means there's a lot of pressure right now to reduce your emissions. Circular economy means there's a lot of pressure to increase your use of recycled raw materials. And green finance means that for companies that are performing better from a sustainability point of view, there are new opportunities for financing and investment. So I don't want to go too much into detail, but just to illustrate a little bit the concept of the climate action wave. This chart here illustrates the price that companies producing metal, glass, or cement have to pay to emit 1 ton of CO2. As you can see, a few years ago, in 2018, the price was under 10 euros. Today, the price is over 90 euros. So in less than 4 years, the price has gone up 10 times. So this is a pressure on your cost basis as a construction company that can no longer be ignored. So as a construction company, the real question is this: how can you turn sustainability into a real economic benefit? At Green Signal, we've tried to identify some solutions for you, and some of them we came up with are these. Through sustainability, you can get new customers, government support, and access to green finance. New customers by producing and targeting sustainable material, sustainable products for these sustainability conscious customers that are after these. Government support, because governments are today handing out money for companies that are performing better from a sustainability point of view, but not to forget to be avoiding the penalties that governments are also handing out to companies that are not performing as well. And finally, green finance means that investors are looking for green investments, but your banks might also provide you better credit if you can show that you're doing more sustainably. How will this work in practice? At Green Signal, we're proposing to provide you with a sustainability information loop. This means that we want to hatch onto your existing project management system, take the data, process it, and then produce automated reports and automated recommendations. These recommendations will then feed back into your project management and create a virtuous cycle of permanently improving sustainability. So concretely, let's just take a use case. This is the interface that a project manager in your company would look at today. He receives instructions from your architect that tells him, okay, we're building this new building, we need these materials, we need so many of them. Your project manager goes to your own company software, looks at the list provided by your suppliers, the suppliers you work with, looks at the suitable materials, identifies the quantities needed. So far, nothing unusual. This is how business works today. Here's where Green Signal kicks in. Green Signal takes that information, processes it, and then generates an automated report and recommendation. So you can see here, this report would basically assess the materials that were chosen by your project manager and might provide alternative recommendations based on the chosen materials. We're starting with data related to CO2, and we're going to be looking also at where your projects are located to identify potential reductions in emissions from transport. But our objective is also to include data on recycled raw materials. And this is a generic, let's say, report that would be suitable for your project manager. But we want to integrate this information in different levels of your company so that you can reach those benefits we talked about earlier. So this means that your sustainability manager will be receiving customized reports, probably on a weekly basis, because she needs to have a constant overview of your company's sustainability performance. But your finance manager probably only needs quarterly reports. So he will get quarterly reports that he can then bring to your bank or to your investors to convince them to finance you. Finally, your legal manager will need to be able to have an overview of what your company is doing to comply with your sustainability obligations. And your marketing manager will need this information probably in a different format so that he can include this information in your marketing materials that you're producing to get these new clients. So this is what we've thought about, and this is how we want to help the construction industry. But of course, we've made a lot of assumptions about how construction companies work and how they integrate their suppliers. And we're really looking forward in the next 3 months to gathering a lot of feedback to make sure that we can adapt our solutions so that when we roll them out, they will fit seamlessly into your daily operations. So our sustainability mission is to accelerate the decarbonization of the construction sector and improve its resource use. The key word here is acceleration. We want to accelerate this transition by providing instant evaluations every step of the way from the start to the finish of the project, and by focusing on high impact measures for sustainability. A very, very quick word on our team. On our left, you can see Dapla. Dapla is a trained architect. He has a lot of experience in working with construction companies, and his help has been invaluable in making sure that the solutions we provide fit seamlessly into existing processes. On the right-hand side, you see Josh. Josh has a lot of experience working with startups and developing sustainable business models, and he will be ensuring that Green Signal is set up for success and that we provide long-term value for your companies. Finally, myself, I have a background in data and automation, but also in EU law and politics, especially when it comes to sustainability. So I understand the pressure that your companies are facing today, and will be making sure that the solutions we develop deliver real value for you. So that's it from Green Signal. Thank you very much for your attention. We look forward to your feedback.
Thank you, Gregory. I think you have all the skills in the toolbox to make this vision happen, so best of luck with that.
Thank you very much, Laura.
And moving on. Now we have another team dealing with data and sustainability. Please welcome one of the Philips of the team, and they also have Arash on the team, but now I will hand over to Philip to present their idea. We have team Unitec. Off you go.
Thank you very much. Hello everyone, my name is Philipp Müller and I will present today Unitec to you. All right, let's just jump into the key challenge we identified. So as you might know, more than 70% of the added value in the construction sector actually comes from your external value chain. And as we all know, you can't manage what you can measure. So this leads us to the core problem we identified. Calculating your CO2 footprint is a huge effort in terms of workforce and time you put in. We ourselves know this. We know this pretty well because Philipp Niemeyer, our co-founder, is working as a sustainability consultant, and he has to go through all this pain. So he has to gather all the data and from the different suppliers and their products, put them through an Excel sheet, and at the end, okay, you have your CO2 footprint. Main challenge here as well is, our main problem is the data quality is not that high. So a lot of your suppliers, maybe you noticed, don't even deliver a CO2 footprint with their product. This is the solution, Unitec. It is a network of different, it's a self-evolving network of different suppliers and their products. And in the end, what should be there is an increase in data quality and transparency in this market. And we want to create it obviously easy to use and well connected with your BIM software. All right, let's just jump into the product. What you can see here is a early visualization of our dashboard. Here you will get displayed your some general data on your last project, some statistics you already can see, and in the left corner there are some different categories to choose from. And we want to click now on projects because this might be the most interesting for you. All right, this is a whole supply chain replicated through an easy drag and drop function. So you just take your materials, resources out of the right corner, and just drop them into your supply chain. The colorful bubbles you see, you can click on them and, for example, choose different materials, different products. The products are at the end displayed with a CO2 equivalent. So this makes a differentiation in this market, obviously. So before, it is maybe not that easy to even choose which product you take. And what you might not see here is also this system will run at your supplier's software system, and which means if there's any change in your supply chain in terms of efficiency, CO2 emission, you will directly see this in your system as well. All right. So I might ask, what is yeah, what is the sustainability impact here? We already talked about it. Up to 80% of the average CO2 emitment comes directly from the supply chain and not from the internal value chain. This means if we don't find a solution for this missing data, we won't be able to compensate, avoid, or regulate this whole CO2 emissions here. All right, let's go to the team. We are 3 persons. I think it's the perfect team to solve this problem because we are a very heterogeneous team in terms of specific skill sets. For example, Arash Javanmat, he's our data scientist. Obviously, it's a big data problem, so we will face some challenges here. He will be the right person for it. Also, he comes in his career, he did a lot of software development, so obviously he will lead our product development. Philipp Niemeyer is a natural entrepreneur, what I would call, because he's solving his own problem, actually. He worked in sustainability consultant in his own company for the last 2 years, and he really will deliver some deep insights for our product development. So we hope we can avoid some mistakes on this software development journey. I myself am an experienced founder. I worked in different startups as well, always a little bit linked to AI, and I always did business development and financial planning. So I will take this role in this team here. All right, thank you very much for your attention. Don't hesitate to reach out to us, because obviously without you, this won't work out. And let's make construction more sustainable together.
Thank you, Philipp. Great presentation. I like the approach of gathering everyone in the value chain because sustainable innovation is a team sport. So now let's have a look at the other team that tackles the problem of sustainable innovation in the construction industry. We have Team IFFcon with Anya, Bernard, and Dmitry. Anya and Bernard are here with us today. I wish you all the best. Enjoy the ride.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you very much, Laura, for introducing us. Yes, also a warm welcome from our side, and we are happy and delighted to present to you IFFcon, our startup that aims to make digitalization easy and tangible for everyone within the construction industry. So the agenda for today. We first of all want to address the problem to you that we want to solve before we head over to the solution. Of course, we also want to present to you the sustainability impact that we want to have within the industry before we finish our presentation with our team. But first of all, the problem. So before we address the problem in particular, we first of all want to introduce to you Walter. Walter is 54 years old, an expert planner in roof constructions, and used to work analog in the past. What matters most to him are excellent work results, a good reputation within the industry, and also a highly efficient time and resource management. Now, the thing is that the construction industry became more and more complex, and also its projects in recent years, which is why he realizes that there are some things that bothers him, such as an insecurity with skills, but also an insufficient time management that he wasn't used to before, and also new requirements coming up from an ecological but also political context. So how did he solve problems so far? Mainly by asking people he knew or knows. He used random resources such as YouTube videos, etc. But looking at the way Walter operates, we can already realize that a lot of mistakes are made within the construction process. And that's where we get to the main problem of the industry. Due to this increased errors, there is a high inefficiency within the industry. So looking at some stats, such as that 10% of materials would not be necessary or are wasted throughout the construction project, or that 30% of all construction work is solely rebuilding due to errors that have been made in the past, or that 90% of all projects get out of control, either in terms of time or cost, shows to us that the industry is highly inefficient. So what are the reasons for this inefficiency? We differentiated the reasons into more obvious and rather less obvious or hidden reasons. Of course, all of us know that the construction industry lags significantly behind in terms of digitalization. So you might ask yourself, how does this relate to the inefficiency? Well, the thing is, with digital tools, you can you can plan and execute projects more efficiently and therefore reduce the amount of errors made throughout the construction process. But the thing is, and that's the problem that we discovered, which is more hidden, we have a lack of knowledge within the construction industry when it comes to working with those digital tools. So the information for construction workers are missing. And that's where our solution, IFFcon, jumps in. We want to provide an information platform that would close the information gap with regards to those digital tools to even plan and execute construction projects more efficiently. So how will this platform, what will this platform be about? We want to focus on 4 major areas, which is innovation, application, transformation, and frameworks. In the field of innovation, we want to introduce new processes, technologies, and trends that will come up in the following years. However, on the application side, we want to also leverage on the current existing digital tools because, as Hendrik Goldbeck correctly said in his initial presentation, the tools already exist and the modern technologies, but many or most of the stakeholders still don't know how to use them. So we want to deliver explanations on how to use those current existing digital tools as easy as possible. Then, of course, should our platform turn out to be a success, then we also want to focus on greener building and alternative practices in the field of transformation, and also a regulatory tracker in the field of frameworks. We also want to differentiate between a general platform and a private forum within our platform. So general platform would be an exchange of ideas and information from different sources, such as government officials, creators of digital tools, but also experts who all have their own interest to participate in our platform. The private forum, however, would focus on specific cases, such as constructors and their regional subcontractors, to share project-relevant know-how and content privately, to also make this process easier. Content will mainly be shared by several channels, such as blog posts, videos and tutorials, but also training sessions and individual consultations might be possible in case of more specific and severe issues. How our platform will look like, Anja is going to introduce to you.
Thank you, Bernhard. So this is what our platform will roughly look like. We will there share what our mission currently is and also introduce all our corporate partners. When you then want to get started on the content, you can click and come to this page on which you can find the 4 major topics we will address that Bernhard already mentioned to you. These are innovation, application, transformation, and framework. When you then choose a topic that you are interested in this case application, you can find first beginners videos that introduce the topic in general and explain to you how to use digital tools. If you want to see more general videos to get started with the content, you can find them here on this page. But if you are already a bit more confident in the topic, you can also filter for specific softwares, such as BIM softwares that were also mentioned in the introduction talk. What matters much in our company is sustainability, of course. This is why we focus on having a high sustainability impact. This will be reached by focusing on the ESG criteria, which are the environmental, social, and governance criteria. Of course, social and governance criteria matter a lot to us, but we will focus on the environmental criteria. Because we make digitalization easy, we will also reduce the errors that happen within the construction industry and will make processes more efficient. This will result in less energy that is needed, and also the waste and pollution will be reduced. Last but not least, I would like to introduce to you our team. Right now, we are 3 team members, which are me, Anja. I am a biologist and will be our sustainability expert. Then we have Bernhard with a background in business administration, and he will develop our business. And last but not least, Dimitri. He is our software developer and will focus on developing a platform that will then be used to share our content on. With that, I would hand back to Laura and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Anja. Thank you, Bernhard. Well done. So we're getting closer to the end. Now, last but not least, our team. What's the new name of the team? Onespot. Okay, it will get pretty clear now once you see what I'm talking about. Team Onespot is here with us today with Jona and Kevin. They also have Konrad on the team, who is unfortunately not here with us today, but I think this dynamic duo will represent the team just fine. So off you go, good luck, and here's Team Onespot.
Thank you ever so much. And thank you also for hanging in there all the way until the last team. And we are Onespot. We are bringing you the warehouse chain for the 21st century. And we're on a mission to bring the warehouses and digital consumer businesses the closest to their customer and in a sustainable way. So we have seen that in the 60s, containers completely reshaped the logistics industry. However, they had an impact on transport, while the stationary part of logistics, like warehouses, stayed completely unchanged. And this is where Onespot comes in. We want to focus on the stationary part, on the warehousing. And we want to have a similarly global and bold impact. However, we want to do that in a sustainable and revolutionary way. So the problem is that the delivery infrastructure cannot keep up with the increasing demand for the e-commerce orders. We see that on the one hand, warehouses want to move closer to the cities because of these increasing orders. And on the other hand, the distributors are facing increasing costs from the financial perspective because of the remote locations that they're placed in, but also from an environmental perspective. We have staff that goes back and forth, which we'll go further into on our sustainability side. But as they're trying to move closer to cities, they're realizing one recurrent problem, and that's that public authorities do not designate new properties for logistics, real estate, due to the lacking adherence to the triple bottom line. And that's people, profit, and planet. They're socially disconnected and not really relevant for the local communities. Also, they're mostly low budget and not creating a lot of value for the local economy. Now, lastly, the whole life cycle is really not sustainable. And also, we've all seen these places, these warehouses, they're just aesthetically not pleasing and not suitable for cities. So some businesses have already tried to solve this, but we only see superficial solutions like green facades. So we took the step to take a completely fresh look at the business model and completely re-innovate the business model by putting people and the planet together with profits at the core of the solution. So what we are offering is a commercial hub that goes beyond just storage and distribution and is people-centered, it's ecological, and it adds value by being completely customizable to the consumer. Now, through modularity, we will offer highly customized spaces to B2B customers that are upmarket. And we will do this through a warehouse that is close to the city, close to public transport, for staff and other reasons. If we take a closer look, the building itself will stand out through aesthetics and sustainability. It will have a green terrace and other spaces that will be available for the public. And on the B2B side, we will have loading docks, just a few, for just large deliveries that will occasionally come in. But it truly distinguishes itself through its catering to the last mile. And that is small vehicles from scooters to vans, and that will be on the backside. Now, if we go inside the model, we are expanding what is usual and traditional in the warehouse industry. We're expanding on the warehouses by adding multi-purpose rooms above. And that is where we're truly revolutionary. Through this modular system I've mentioned earlier, we're going to cater to these B2B customers for the sake of not just storage and distribution, but also small-scale productions and crafts, as well as office space and all sorts of space. Now, on the public side, Onespot will boast with co-working spaces, pop-up stores for e-commerce being our focus, and also gyms, restaurants, and bars. It will become the central meeting spot, one spot for the local community.
Absolutely, thank you. Kevin already mentioned building smart and building simple. So what is that exactly? We want to combine standardized building components with climate adaptive parameters right from work phase 1. So what we face right now is a gigantic greenhouse gas value emission in the logistics real estate sector. What we see is that those emissions are actually equal not to 10,000, not to 100,000, but to 40 million cars traveling one time around the whole globe. So you see, this is a gigantic value where we need to pull that lever. And to be able to do that, we defined the 3 most important action steps that are the travel distances. First, what we see is that up to 1/3 of the greenhouse gases emitted during the use phase of the current logistic building concept are actually not derived to the building itself, but to the employees having large distances to travel to get to their workplace and back home. So by being able to select more central locations due to our multi-use concept in the logistics real estate, we will be able to cut down those travel distances, the traveling time, and also thus the emissions. Secondly, the building materials. We are emphasizing to use substituent material in a hybrid building typology that creates a carbon sink. We further emphasize using the specific material properties where they are actually needed. So this means, for instance, using specific properties of materials in a more resilient and robust way in the materials of the facade for the ground floor, which is of course more exposed to splash water or mechanical stress, and other materials which do not have to be that resilient for the materials of the facade of the first floor. And lastly, the technical equipment, which we actually want to avoid by using constructive and natural solutions rather instead of highly energy consuming technologies. So how are we going to achieve this? We will enter an iterative process together with our corporate partners, matching the best ideas with our specific requirements of the potential customers to create the best outcome possible. And finally, we will implement the best solution and take that into action with this extensive network of experts. We are the one spot bringing consumer businesses closest to their customers in a sustainable way. And I am thrilled to have such a passionate team with Konrad, who is following us on his screen right now. He is our numbers guy coming from a financial background. We have Kevin. He is actually having hands-on experience in entrepreneurial actions in the sector of last mile delivery. And me, Jona, I am home in the constructive sector with a specific focus on sustainability. And we are ready to disrupt logistics. One spot, it's just logistical. Thank you much for staying, and we hope you had a great live stream.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, guys. Awesome pitch. Now you can breathe out. We are officially done with our pitch part. Now we have another exciting highlight for you before we wrap up this event. I have a startup founder this time from the construction industry. I'm happy to welcome Michél-Philipp Maruhn, CEO at ROOBEO, on stage to talk about the chances and challenges for entrepreneurs in the construction industry. Hi, Michél. Welcome on stage and welcome to the mission.
Hi, Laura. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm really happy to be part of the mission construction. Thank you.
Awesome. So here at the mission, we have a format called 1-minute pitches, where our teams present their ideas in just about a minute. I would like to ask you now to present ROOBEO to us in right about 60 seconds.
Okay, I will give my best in 60 seconds. Easily, ROOBEO is a platform that simplifies and supports the building material procurement process between manufacturers, craftsmen, and suppliers. That saves a lot of time, makes more transparent and standardized the entire process, avoids incorrect orders. With our platform, we create the ordering process and experience to the crafts and our other customers.
Okay.
I hope it was 60 seconds.
I think it was even shorter. Well done. Thank you. So you're not only the CEO at ROOBEO, you're also the founder. Back in 2017, you had the vision to shorten procurement processes and increase productivity across the whole construction sector. Has this vision come true?
Straight, yes. We are making our vision a reality. We have the vision to map the process in material procurement, to make them more transparent and efficient, to make the data usable for the future, to achieve more sustainability. Nobody said it was easy, but we stuck together as a team, and together we got the biggest craftsmen, the biggest suppliers and manufacturers excited about our platform. Yes.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's all about teamwork. So now I know that. Teamwork. So now I know that ROOBEO is not your first venture. You actually had your first one founded when you were just about 16. Correct me if I'm wrong. Can you tell us a little bit more about that experience?
Yes, it was 17, 16, yeah, in the middle. In the past, I was a professional triathlete, and this passion for sport let me find my first company in the sports and nutrition sector. It's totally different to the construction. But the timing in the market wasn't there yet. So I didn't earn millions with my first company, but gained an incredible amount of experience. So you can have a great idea and a great team, but timing, I think it's the most important point. This experience are available and help me in many decisions today.
Time to market is really key. I remember that from my innovation lessons in the university. So yeah, that's actually true. Apparently my professors were right. Quite impressive. So you must be like a venturing expert now, because I know that before ROOBEO you had another, or you worked in another company also dealing with construction and real estate. And now next to ROOBEO, you also have a podcast called Digitalwerk Podcast. What are your key learnings so far on the topic?
Yes, true. Around 10 years ago, I started a business in the construction branch, and maybe I have 4 different key learnings. But it's all about venturing, fail, but fail fast. I think that's nothing new and special, but it's really important. Use your mistakes to get better, that's for sure. And thirdly, give responsibility to your team, and don't think as a founder you can do everything better. And last but not least, only do what you really believe in. So that's, I think, the most important points.
Talking about doing what you love. In your podcast, you talk a lot to different entrepreneurs, craftsmen, people from the construction and real estate industry. Now, you probably know a lot about the industry already, so can you share with us the most trending topics at the moment and the most pressing issues?
Yes, I will try my best. Maybe some examples from the past, and then we switch to now. The construction industry is gigantic. You hear this many times today, and you must look at a bit deeper or more deeply in the construction industry. It's quite fragmented and different areas. So they have many different phases, different topics that they're important. I will give you an example. In 2015 until 18, 3D printing was very much in focus. Then came areas like software for planning in the cloud, for example, companies like PlanRadar or Capmo. And I think the next big topic for sure will be procurement, but for sure is it sustainability. That is for the entire construction market really important to find new solutions, new ways.
That's exactly why we have the Mission Construction running now. Yeah,
yes.
We're hitting the pressing spots. Very good. So at ROOBEO, you're responsible for the strategy, but also for the positioning of the company, for the external presentation, for the investors, communications and relations. What rules apply in the industry, in that market? Are there any requirements that you have to fulfill, any legal requirements especially?
I think there are more unspoken laws in this market than we are subject to regulators. So the most important thing for our customer groups is the data security, I think. So especially in Germany, we stay really safe with our data. In our case, that means the material prices and personal data in our platform. That's really, really important. And some, of course, frameworks and regulatories behind this. So the entire industry is in a state of flux with digitization. It is the best moment to develop further and new services. And certainly one of the most important topics is sustainability. So I think for a founder, do it and think not a lot about regulatories. So try it and enter the market.
Yeah, that was exactly what we talked about earlier today in the panel discussion. There are a lot of pressing issues, but not enough practical solutions for it. As an entrepreneur, how do you make sure that you always have the right solution on your hands? How do you make sure that you're always on track?
That's a good question, though. That's really a good question. I think in the construction industry, talk to your customers is even more important than in many other industries. For sure, it's important, but here it's much more important, I think. Why? It's often because the acceptance of technology is not yet so far, and the trust in technology is missing in the construction industry. So take your customers on a journey. That's really, really important. We had to get used to not developing new functions too quickly and to adapt the pace of the market. That was our biggest learning in 2020. That was a huge choice for us. Yeah.
I think that's also a great tip for our teams. So now back to the topic of doing what you love. I think now at ROOBEO, you're at a really great stage. ROOBEO is booming. You must have put a lot of passion into it. Where does this fascination for the construction industry come from?
That's a good question. Sometimes I ask myself. No, just joking. In my life, I really love to design and build buildings, but not for myself, but for others. So this dream started with 500 euro as a small company, and after 4 years, it became a group of companies in the construction sector. So, and when I started to look inside the industry, I realized how big is the industry, and how much can be improved through technology. So that was my reason, and I was in love with the industry. But one sentence more, moreover, I don't want to realize the potential through a foreign tech company, to be honest. And instead, I see the market situation as an opportunity for us here in Germany.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I really hope that our teams also seize this opportunity. So now talking about our teams, you're a quite popular keynote speaker, and I know that we are quite lucky to have you here today because you're very busy. So when talking to your audience, what tips do you usually give to your audience talking about entrepreneurship, and what tips would you give exclusively to our teams there here listening to you right now?
Okay, so I have 4 points, but first, I think it's really important to understand as a founder, you have to be able to speak at the eye level with your customers in the construction industry. And don't be arrogant because you know how to do it better with technology, but also you don't be afraid to say no to the biggest clients. That's a huge gap, but you have to feel it. That's just a feeling, and you can learn it with time. So, but straightforward 4 points, I think. Always deliver what you promise. It's really important in the construction sector. It's even important to all your customers. Doesn't matter construction or fintech, but here is it important. Trust. Do what you really love. That's the same thing before, and trust in yourself. It's a really hard market. The market is slow, but trust in yourself, and it only works with a team around you. You can't do this by yourself, and you can't do this with your founder team. You need a huge team with expertise, and then you can rock this shit.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. What a great way to finish this event, because that's exactly what we provide to our teams. We are all one big team working now on great ideas to bring innovation and sustainability into the construction industry. Thank you so much for your time, Michél. Best of luck with ROOBEO. So and I hope to see you soon in some other format in the mission.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, so now it's time to wrap it up. We are getting very, very close to the end, but actually this is just the beginning. So time for a quick outro. Now, we are now in the beginning of February. We just heard our team's kickoff pitches. This is the starting point. From now on, in the next about 12 weeks, our teams will be making their visions come true. They have a lot of assumptions that they have already made. Now they have to test them. They have to build the prototypes, test them, build them again. And throughout this whole exciting journey, we're very happy to have all of our partners on board and all of our experts on board. We have built really a great network so far. But if you're interested in joining us, reach out. We're always open for new collaborations. At this point, I don't have much to add. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Live from Düsseldorf here, my name is Laura. It's been a pleasure hosting this event for you. I hope you have a great weekend and tune in for our next events in the future. Take care. Bye-bye.
Das war das Euroforum Studio.